All right, so get ready, because today we're diving into a topic that always seems to spark some pretty heated debates
Oh, yeah.
in smoke circles everywhere,
You sure?
and that is water filtration in bongs.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
Yeah.
And, you want to know if more water actually equals less THC,
Right?
and if those elaborate recycler bongs are worth the hype.
Totally.
So,
People always ask about that.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So you sent in some really, really fascinating research
Good.
from a clover glass blower
Oh,
and bong enthusiast.
that's awesome.
So talk about a credible source.
For sure.
We are about to break down the science behind it all.
Love it.
And trust me, what we uncover might just change how
Yeah.
you approach your next session.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
What's really interesting about this whole topic is that
Yeah.
so many of the assumptions people make about like water and THC,
Right.
they're rooted in perception,
Okay.
not hard science.
Interesting.
So a little chemistry lesson
Okay.
will go a long way
Okay.
in helping you make informed decisions
I like it.
as a bong user.
All right, so let's get into the science. One of the first things that really jumps out from the blog post
Okay.
is this idea that THC doesn't like to hang out in water.
Exactly. THC, which is that primary psychoactive compound in cannabis, is what we call hydrophobic,
Hydrophobic.
meaning it doesn't dissolve well in water.
Okay,
It much prefers to bind to fats and oils,
got it.
like those found in the smoke itself.
So even if I've got my bong filled halfway up,
Yeah,
I'm not really losing a significant amount of THC to the water.
you got it.
Okay.
And this is actually backed up by a study
Oh, wow.
all the way back in 1992 by Port
Okay.
that found that THC is only soluble in water
Yeah.
to an incredibly small degree.
Okay.
Think milligrams per liter,
Okay.
which is practically nothing
Right.
in the grand scheme of your bong session.
Right.
The blog author
Yeah.
even conducted a personal experiment
Interesting.
comparing the same amount of herb
Yeah.
in two identical bongs,
Okay.
one with low water, one with high water.
Makes sense.
And they reported
Yeah.
that the perceived high was almost identical.
That actually lines up
Yeah.
with my own experiences too.
Yeah.
Like a bong with more water definitely feels smoother,
Sure.
but I wouldn't say the high is any weaker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The smoothness isn't due to less THC.
Right.
Instead, the water acts primarily as a physical filter,
Okay.
trapping larger particles like ash and tar.
Okay.
Think about all that gunk
Oh, yeah,
that builds up in your bong water.
for sure.
That's not THC,
Right.
but the byproducts of combustion.
So that dirty bong water is more of a sign of a good cleaning session,
Pretty much.
not a lack of potency.
Precisely.
Okay.
And there's a 2019 study
Oh, wow.
published in the American Journal of Cannabis Science that
Wow.
analyzed bong water.
Okay.
And they found only trace biologically insignificant levels
Wow.
of cannabinoids.
That's reassuring to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so if more water doesn't equal less THC,
Right.
is there any benefit to filling it up higher?
Well, a larger water surface area
Yeah.
can lead to
Okay.
slightly increased filtration,
Okay.
catching more of those unwanted byproducts.
Sure.
But it won't drastically change the THC content you're inhaling.
Okay.
There's a 2021 study
Okay.
where researchers tested various water levels,
Okay.
and even doubling the amount resulted in only a 1.5%
Wow.
decrease in THC.
That's tiny.
Statistically, that's practically negligible.
Well, we're talking about tiny differences here.
Yeah.
But I do remember one time
Yeah.
I overfilled my bong thinking it would be super smooth.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
But I had to pull so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Almost like sucking a milkshake through a straw.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Overfilling can restrict airflow,
Okay.
meaning you may inhale less smoke overall,
Right.
leading to a weaker feeling hit.
So the water itself isn't reducing the THC,
Right.
but it's making me work harder to get the same amount of smoke.
Exactly.
Okay.
The volume of smoke inhaled has a much greater impact
Right.
on the perceived potency
Right.
than the water level itself.
Got it.
Think of it as a bit of a psychological trick.
Okay.
Smoother hits
Yeah.
can feel less intense even if the THC content
Right.
remains the same.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's not about how much water is in the bong.
Right.
It's about how much smoke you can actually pull through it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now this brings us to the topic of recycler bongs.
Okay.
Those beautiful multi-chambered wonders
I love them.
that seem to defy the laws of physics.
Yeah, they look so cool.
I'm curious, do they really live up to all the hype?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
While recycler bongs certainly have a visual appeal
Right.
and can deliver incredibly smooth hits,
Yeah.
The science behind their THC retention
Okay.
might surprise you.
Okay. I'm all ears. Let's debunk,
All right.
or maybe confirm some myths.
Let's do it. You see, the common belief is that recycler bongs, with their crazy filtration systems, preserve more THC.
Right.
However, remember what we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
THC doesn't want to bind with water.
Right.
Those extra filtration cycles in a recycler might catch some additional tar and ash,
Okay.
but their impact on actual THC levels
Yeah.
is surprisingly minimal.
So those extra chambers are more about aesthetics and smooth hits than...
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
Okay.
A well-designed recycler can definitely make for a cooler, less harsh experience,
For sure.
which a lot of users find more enjoyable.
Totally.
And then there's that visual appeal
Oh, yeah.
of those intricate designs.
Fair.
They're those functional works of art.
Yeah.
But if we're talking purely about THC retention,
You okay?
the science suggests the difference is pretty small.
Okay. So there's actual research to support that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a 2020 meta-analysis published in the Cannabis Product Science Journal.
Okay.
They compared single chamber,
Okay.
double chamber,
Gotcha.
and recycler bongs,
Makes sense.
analyzing data from 7 different studies.
Wow. Okay.
And what they found was that THC retention rates
Okay.
were surprisingly similar across the board.
I'm curious, what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
Yeah, so for single and double chamber bongs,
Okay.
the average THC retention hovered around 85 to 92%.
Wow.
Recyclers were a bit lower, but still within that 83 to 90% range.
Okay.
Not a significant difference when you consider the potential variations
Right.
between individual bongs and how people use them.
That's a much smaller gap than I would imagined.
Right.
But then why do some people swear that recycles get them higher?
Well,
Is it all just placebo effect?
it's possible that the smoother hit
Okay.
plays a role in that perception.
Okay.
Since the smoke is less harsh,
Right.
people may find themselves inhaling more deeply,
Yeah.
leading to a greater overall intake of THC. It's not that the recycler is magically saving THC,
Right.
but rather it's facilitating deeper, more satisfying inhales.
Okay.
The blog author even points out
Yeah.
that a well-crafted recycler, like those made by Clover Glass,
Right.
with efficient airflow and percolation,
Okay.
can enhance this effect.
So the design and quality of the recycler
Yeah.
do play a role in how much smoke
Yeah,
you can comfortably inhale.
for sure.
It makes sense. If it's a smoother experience, you're more likely to take bigger hits.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings us back to a crucial point we
Right.
discussed earlier,
Right.
finding the perfect water level
Yeah.
for your specific bong.
Whether we're talking recyclers or simpler designs,
Yeah,
the amount of water still matters.
it does.
Is there a magic formula
Yeah.
for figuring out the ideal level?
Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer,
Right.
as it depends on the bong's design, your personal lung capacity,
Okay.
and even your inhalation style.
Sure.
However, the blog author offers a helpful rule of thumb.
Okay. I'm ready to optimize my bong game. What's the secret?
The key is to submerge your perk or diffuser,
Okay.
just enough to create a gentle bubbling sound when you inhale.
Got it.
Avoid overfilling,
Right.
as that can restrict airflow and make it harder to pull.
I know that feeling.
You want to hear those satisfying bubbles?
Okay.
Not a loud gurgle or splashing sound?
To start with a lower water level and gradually add more until I find that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Okay.
The blog author recommends making small adjustments,
Okay.
maybe like a ½ inch at a time,
Gotcha.
and paying attention to how the pull feels.
Yeah.
Each bong is unique,
Right.
so it's all about finding what works best for you.
And they mentioned that different bong shapes can affect things too, right?
Totally.
Like my beaker bong might behave differently than a straight tube.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Beakers with their wider bases
Yeah.
can generally handle more water without creating as much drag. Straight tubes, on the other hand,
Right.
are more sensitive to changes in water level.
Oh,
You'll notice the difference in the pull much more quickly.
interesting. So with my beaker, I can probably be a bit more generous with the water
Yeah.
without compromising the airflow.
It's definitely worth experimenting
Oh,
to
wow.
find your sweet spot.
Right.
And remember,
Yeah.
even the temperature of the water can influence the experience.
That's true.
Some folks prefer warm water for a steamier, smoother hit,
Yeah.
while others swear by ice-cold water
Yeah.
for a crisp, refreshing sensation.
Oh, yeah. I love using an eye catcher.
Yeah.
It's amazing how these subtle adjustments
Right.
can make such a difference in the overall experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it highlights a fascinating aspect of Bong use
Okay.
that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
The impact of terpenes.
I was just thinking about that.
Oh, yeah.
Terpenes, those aromatic compounds that give different strains their unique flavors and aromas,
Right.
are a big part of the enjoyment for me.
Yeah.
I'm curious how water filtration might affect them.
Yeah.
Could we be losing out on those delicate terpenes with all this bubbling and filtering? Yeah, that's a great question. I've always wondered about terpenes and how they interact with water.
Yeah.
I know they're responsible for so much of the flavor and aroma,
Right.
and I'd hate to think I'm losing out on those nuances because of my bong water.
Yeah. That's an area
Yeah.
where the science is still emerging.
Okay.
We know that water can filter out certain compounds in smoke,
Right?
but the specific impact on terpenes isn't fully understood.
Okay.
It's definitely an area ripe for more research.
It seems like every time we answer one question,
I know.
we uncover two more.
It's true.
So while we don't have all the answers about terpenes just yet,
Right.
what can you tell me about their general properties? Are they more likely to bind with water than THC?
Well, terpenes are a diverse group of compounds,
Okay.
and their solubility in water varies. Some are more water-soluble than others.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Even if some terpenes do dissolve in water
Yeah.
to a greater extent than THC,
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean they're completely lost from the experience.
Okay.
Remember, we're not drinking the bong water.
Okay, that's a good point. So even if some terpenes get trapped in the water,
Right.
the ones that remain in the smoke are still contributing to the overall flavor and aroma.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there's another fascinating layer to this.
Okay.
Some researchers believe that the terpenes that do dissolve in water
Yeah.
might actually contribute to the unique taste and feel of a bong hit. It's like they're infusing the water itself with subtle hints of flavor.
Wow, I never thought about it that way. It's like the bong water becomes part of the flavor profile,
Totally.
not just a neutral filtering agent.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this brings us back to the intriguing question
Yes.
we touched on earlier about water temperature. If we know that water temperature can affect the feeling of the smoke itself,
Right.
could it also influence how we perceive the high,
Okay.
even if the THC levels stay the same?
That question has been swirling around in my mind ever since you mentioned it.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if there's a whole world of subtle nuances to bong water that we're only just beginning to understand.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on the big players like THC,
Right.
but there's a whole orchestra of compounds at play in a cannabis session.
Yeah,
And factors like water temperature and terpene solubility
for sure.
might be influencing the overall experience in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
This is exactly why I love these deep dives.
Me do.
We start with a seemingly simple question,
Yeah.
and it unfolds into this fascinating exploration of science perception and personal experience.
That's the beauty of knowledge.
Yeah,
It sparks curiosity and leads us down unexpected paths.
I agree.
And in this case, it empowers us to make more informed choices about our bong use.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say it's this: don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you.
Okay.
Play around with different water levels,
Okay.
different temperatures,
Got it.
different bong designs.
Okay.
Pay attention to the nuances, the smoothness, the flavor, the way the high feels,
For sure.
and most importantly, enjoy the journey of discovery.
That's a great note to end on.
I think so.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to enhancing your cannabis experience.
Absolutely.
So to all our listeners out there, go forth and bong with confidence.
Yes.
And if you come across any mind-blowing discoveries in your own water filtration adventures,
Yeah.
be sure to share them with us. We're always eager to learn more.
Always.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep those questions coming and happy bonging.
Happy bonging.